Okay, this is a video we're doing for Miss Heloise Reed. She taught at Highland, went to school at Highland her whole life. She's lived at Highland her whole life. She taught right at 50 years, started teaching a one-room school. So this interview is going to be about her and the Highland community and the Highland school. So let's start out by tell me your name and where you were born.
My name is Heloise Duncan Reed. I was born in a log cabin or cabin across from the Lincoln County School,
The high school there.
high
It's
school
still there,
there,
yeah.
on December the 10th, 1932. It was supposed to be cold then, and I was born in the cabin. A doctor came from Stanford, and I think my daddy's sister was a nurse, and I think I was told that she was with me. And Joe wants me to tell you about my name. So when I was born, my daddy was from Garrett County, and there was a beautiful lady called Lillian Cox, and she named her daughter Heloise. Heloise, I wrote it down in my little book here, was I think it was French, if I'm not mistaken. And she had a tutor, and he was, and she fell in love with him, and she became a nun, and he became a priest. And so my name was, on my birth certificate, I was named Helen because nobody could spell my name. And it was later very difficult for anybody to say my name because I think it was French. And I think this was a love story between a student and her tutor.
And this is a novel.
It was a
And what's
novel,
the name of it?
and the name of it was Stealing Heaven.
Okay.
And somewhere along the way in my long lifetime, I found the book and I read it. And that is one of my bucket list things I like to do, reread it and learn, be reminded their love story.
Okay, so tell me about your parents. So you said your dad was a tenant farmer on the Boffman farm when you were born.
Yes, I mean, I always wondered how they met because mother grew up on Mason Gap area, and my daddy grew up in Garrett County. And of course, you wonder why you don't do things when you get older. But uh, he was a good farmer, and that is how he became to own 4 or 5 farms in this count, right in this neck of the woods, Highland.
So when you were born, he was just a tenant farm,
He
didn't
was
own any
just
land.
he didn't own any land, and they were just two young people in love. And how they found that place, I do not know.
And so you said your mom was from Mason Gap,
Uh-huh.
and then you were an only child.
I was an only child.
And so tell me something, just a little bit about the memory of, or what you've been told about the Boffman farm there.
Well, my mother and daddy, they, Mr. Boffman raised sheep. So that's all I can remember was sheep. And once they took me up to the big house, Mr. Boffman, Henry Boffman's home, and I was fed ice cream. I remember that. So
Because that's basically that's a mansion of a house. Even today, it's
yes,
still a very nice house.
yes,
It's next door to it there.
you're right.
Okay, so then you moved. Your dad moved up to what at the time was called Dog Trot,
Right,
later called it's known as Red Oak now, and this is in the
ready,
Highland community, just past where the school was at.
right.
So, and that was the first place he had owned. The
Right.
house is actually still there. We went by there. It's basically fallen down,
Right,
but the house is still there on the
right.
left, just right out the road there.
Hmm.
So tell me a little bit about your growing up. You had to work on the farm, and you said your dad kind of wanted a boy to work on the farm.
Yeah,
So
when I was born, do I need to tell
yeah,
that again?
yeah.
When I was born, uh, my daddy wanted a boy so bad that I cut my hair when I got able to walk, and a little zip-in railroad, well, coveralls, I guess I would call. And so I was the image of my father when I was born. I would probably pass for a boy because I looked so much like him. And then uh,
Did
as
he have red hair?
my mother was the one with the
Okay.
red hair.
And you had bright red hair.
I had auburn reddish hair till it turned
Yeah.
gray.
Yeah.
And I don't, I think I was probably 4 or 5 when we moved to the farm that he bought on Dog Trot. And then when we moved from Mr. Balkman, Henry Balkman's farm, he gave me 2 baby lambs. And my father was one that we did chores. You did your chores, and mother had chores, the housework, and we had the cows to milk. And so when he gave me them 2 lambs, that was my responsibility. And I bottle fed them until they were big, and they kept knocking me down and running over me, so my dad had to sell them. So back then, in the 30s and the 40s and 50s, then the farmer, you had to call a cattle truck to come and get them. And Mr. Harvey Jenkins from the Kings Mountain community brought his cattle truck and hauled off my 2 baby lambs. So that was a sad day. But I outgrew them because we had chores, and my mother worked side by side with my daddy uh, from daylight to dark. And we didn't have babysitters in those days, so I went to the field if we were worming tobacco or baling hay or growing corn, cutting corn, shucking corn. I went there.
And you said you were worried about getting stung by the tobacco worms.
Yeah, I was afraid of the tobacco worms. I couldn't, and I think I was too small to pull them apart. And so I had a pair of scissors, and I got to cut them in 2.
Oh. So you said that that farm, it's basically Highland is. Some people think it was named after the Highlands of Scotland. It's basically a bunch of ridge tops,
Right.
red oak, or at the time dog trot. It's basically a ridge.
Yeah.
Greasy Ridge, Horse Ridge, they're all just kind of ridges that the road's kind of on the top of the ridge, and to the left and right, it's just basically just kind of a hillside.
Mm-hmm.
So you said it was really rocky. I know there's a lot of red clay out there.
Oh yeah, we had red clay, and I picked up rock on Saturday, and when the second Methodist church was being built, how my father found out they needed rock to put in the cement to make the walls, he did, and we hauled rock out. And after I had to pick them up, then I had to help unload them again. And I really thought Daddy's farm, the farm I lived on and the house I lived on, grew rock, I'll tell you. I never picked up so many rock in my childhood or not. So, but it was a chore of love because we were bonded together, my mother and my father and myself. I was the only child.
And your mom worked on the farm all the time too?
She worked side by side, and she wore cover overalls to farm in, milk in, and work on the farm.
Okay. Okay, so before we get talking about the school, let's talk just a little bit about the community and the church. And now that's the church that's still there. It's still a Methodist church. So you actually didn't go there until you were 16, right?
I didn't every revival we were invited to go, but my mother and my father's main idea was working side by side my mother and making a home for us. We didn't have friends. We didn't go anywhere. We were a family, just we three, you know. And he worked very hard, and she worked beside of him, and they were devoted to each other.
So I guess you started going, we were invited to church.
I guess I was invited to church when I was 16 because we had a minister come to the community named Jimmy Florence, and he was a graduated from Asbury College and Asbury Seminary, and he is the one that got me involved in church. He is the one that I became a Christian under. And so when well, I don't know if we're going to skip all this or not, but when I was graduated from Highland Elementary into Highland High School, Brother Florence came to my father and said he wanted me to go to college. Could I go to Asbury? So he got me in Asbury College.
So, and yeah, we're going to talk a lot about that. So you're going to church kind of led into your teaching career, then,
right?
Knowing him.
Knowing him, and he saw me as college material, but I really wasn't. I struggled with study habits, and I had a hard time getting through because this was a prestige college. The best of the best came there because there were going to be ministers and missionaries, yeah. And I was just a plain old country girl from Highland.
Yeah. So, so the community of Highland, a lot of people don't even probably know this, but on Old 27 or now 1247, there was a community there, and I've heard that there was a general store there since before the Civil War. And when we drove through, we made a video of kind of driving through the community there. There was at least 4 gas stations and stores within maybe a mile there.
Right.
And there was a motel down the road too.
Right.
So it actually was a community, and the school was not only a elementary school, or as at the time they called them a grade school. It was also a high school.
Right.
So it was 1st through 12th grade.
Right.
Building there. So let's see. So anything else about the community of Highland?
Well, like I said, I was a strong Christian, and so that's where I started to church. And as I grew older, I devoted myself to my church. At one time I was a song leader, and at one time I was a Sunday school teacher.
And you went all those years there, and you still, and when you're able to go.
And I now have nerve damage, so I try to go on Easter. That's strange, but I mean, I feel that no matter how old I am, I need to be in church on Easter.
Yeah. Okay, so so we're getting into your elementary school years at Highland, and so Highland is about not quite half mile to a mile from your house. So you're living on Dog Trot there.
I cannot judge distance, like right and left, our distance or time.
So how did you get to school? You walked?
My daddy walked. We met as they walked out the ridge. There was a Sizemore family. Shafter and Stella Sizemore lived out the ridge, and a Barnett family lived out there, and they'd all meet up and we'd walk. And when I was first starting to school, I walked with all of them. to school. We went to the edge of the road, and there was our mailboxes nailed on the plank. And of course, in my time when I started the first grade, school buses and mailmen or mail carriers did not go outside roads. And you walked to the main highway, and we all walked up and past all the houses to school at Highland in grade school.
Okay, well, let's start talking a little bit about the actual school. So, when you went to school, I guess it was a big change to your family because you had always helped on the farm.
Well, when I was younger, I mean, I just did little chores, but when I got up in grade school, my chores got more. We milked cows, so my job was to go to the pasture fields and bring the cows in.
And that's in the morning.
That's in the morning before I went to school. And then in the afternoon, I went to the pasture fields and brought the cows back in. And I milked cows, fed hay from the hay loft before school.
So that's what people did before they were on their phones for hours a day.
Right. I mean, when you mentioned phones and all like that, it took us, my dad, we didn't have, excuse me, extras. It took several years before we had the little TV screen about the size of a notebook.
Yeah.
And my dad believed in work. If you worked, you saved your money. And if there was something else you wanted, we didn't have much extras.
Did he even drive at the time?
I think we had a car. I remember a car.
Okay.
But that wasn't until I got older. I don't remember what kind of vehicle we had. He had a car because we went during the war, we had our coupons. We went and bought groceries with.
Rations. Now what that means is there wasn't enough to go around, so they gave out coupons, and you were allowed to go get so much sugar and flour.
And that's what all
gasoline.
We bought. We raised the other in our garden, and Mother canned, and you lived on your canned garden food for the winter while we were stripping tobacco.
Yeah. So you started the school. Now, school in those days was quite a bit different than today. So the rooms had really large windows because you had electricity there. Electricity was fairly new at the time.
Yeah.
But they did have electricity, but they had the big windows because the lights in the room probably weren't great.
They were very dim.
Right. And but in the wintertime, it was kind of rough. When you mentioned about you had the stoves in the rooms and
pot-bellied stoves, coal buckets with coal in it, and the janitor, I think, stayed there all day and kept the fire up. And each classroom had two big, huge cheap blackboards, and the pot-bellied stove, and the furniture was separate desk. One older person told me they had double desk when she went to school, but ours were single little desk.
And I've always heard, and I'm sure it was no different, they oiled the floors, right? Because it was just so dirty and dusty.
So dusty.
Because I guess you have to imagine the schoolyard was just trampled with kids.
Right.
And so it was dirt, basically.
All of it was dirt.
And the kids had walked from home, so they'd walk down a gravel road many times.
And they walked down to the outhouses, and at recess time, we all played on dirt, and we dug in a lot of dirt and dust and all that. So I've heard before that they didn't have school in the summer because it was just too hot with all those kids in a room together. I think we started in September, the best I remember.
Because you probably didn't even have, of course, no air conditioning, but did you even have fans in the classroom?
I don't remember.
And I think you said that the windows at the old school didn't even open.
I don't think they opened. I always wondered why in the world it was so built up so high and the windows were so high. you could barely see out them, you know. And when the sun was hot in the morning, your room got hot because the sun was there. And as I got older, I wondered why, but I never did find out.
Okay, now that we're starting to talk a little bit about the old elementary school and high school up there, and of course the building is not there. If you go by, you can see where the sidewalk is and a couple of posts that were in front, and there's a couple of houses in the location, and we think that possibly a house is built on top of the old lunchroom that was later added. So that the lunchroom and the sidewalk are kind of the only things left of the building. Um, but just take us through, and I'll post a picture on the video of what the school looked like. So just take us through when you walk in the front door, what you
Okay.
saw.
Well, after all of us got up, walking on new 27, which is now old 27, there was this little short white fence around the schoolyard, and a big long sidewalk. And as you come in on the left, on the right, I think we had a volleyball net that the older children played with, and the rest of the playground was down on the right. And Mr. Roach Flannery years ago raised tobacco, and we girls, we played rock playhouses. We picked up rock and made our rooms and all, and you know, and then when we got angry with each other, we tore up their playhouses. But anyway, and then around the back of the right side, I'll get back to the concrete walk, was the outhouses and our playhouses, and every grade had a set softball field you played in, and you weren't allowed to be. If I was a fifth grader, I wasn't allowed to be in the sixth grade play area, and they all had playgrounds designated for you to play in. And when we were, all of us from Dog Trot walked to this long concrete sidewalk. I always thought it was so long. But after we'd walked that far, you were getting a little tired when you were young. We walked through double white, best I remember, maybe they were metal doors, 10, I think, 10 doors. And we walked, I was in grade school, so I walked to the left. And when I got to the eighth grade and finally got to high school, I walked to the left to the grade school area.
Right, yeah, the grade school was on what would be kind of the south side, to the
South
right.
side.
If you're looking at the front of the building,
and then the north side was the high school.
Yeah, the left, which is the north side, but
right.
The high school. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So when you went in, there was a long hallway to the left and right.
Right.
And you hung your coats there. Right? Did you put your lunch boxes there, or did you take them in the room?
I think we took our lunch boxes to the room, but we nailed, there was these little clothes hanger things nailed to the wall, and we hung our coats there. And we on the grade school side had one water fountain. And when you played hard and out in the sun, a big long line, it took a while for all of us to get a drink and get to our classrooms. And
so this water fountain, was this actual running water, or was this a dipper?
No, it was running water. We really had a water fountain.
So that was pretty modern for the time.
Oh, yeah, we were modern.
Most schools had a dipper, and they all...
And a bucket.
Yeah, and...
You made if you didn't bring a metal or glass cup, you weren't asked. I think they didn't want us to bring glass. We had a metal cup, or we made making folded drinking cups.
Right, yeah.
And...
So even though you had running water there were, like you said, outdoor bathrooms, and the school never had indoor bathrooms at the old Highland.
No.
Okay. So Let's see.
Not that I know of.
Now, you had mentioned when you walk in, there was a classroom in the middle of the school that had a stage area. And that's eventually where you wound up teaching for a couple years.
Right. The stage room, I think the 7th and 8th, if I'm not mistaken, was in the stage room. And we had these fold out doors that divided that big room, long room, from the other room. And then on the other room in the high school area, there was a little bitty library that we had that was always cold because it didn't have a stove in it. And
Now, there was no office because back then the principal generally was a teacher, right?
right,
And there was no secretary, right?
No.
Everybody did their own paperwork.
no.
So
That's why the little bird book, as I call it, was so important, because all of your information was in that little bird book.
yeah. Yeah, so that was basically your attendance record.
Right.
The bird book. Okay.
Right.
And you said you never missed any school until the 8th grade.
8th grade, when they made a mistake.
Yeah.
And my dad walked to school, bless his heart. He fought for me there. But it didn't change.
Okay, so
Oh, I had perfect attendance. That's why
yeah,
it upset my father
right.
that I had walked through rain and snow and didn't get credit for it.
Okay, so let's see a little bit more about the building, I guess. At some point, you said they built the lunchroom.
Right. We brought our lunches, and at lunchtime, we all we might have had a paper bag, or if you were had more money, you probably had a lunch box. I can't remember if I had one or not. I remember bringing a paper bag, and we would trade food. And 9 chances out of 10, your lunch was what was left over from breakfast, a biscuit with a piece of meat on it or a fried egg on it. So, and if you were tired of that, you wanted to change with someone else.
Now, at the time, I don't guess there was any milk cartons or
No.
anything where that
No.
came about later.
No.
So basically, all you had to drink all day was just from that.
Right,
that
from
fountain,
the water fountain.
Yeah. Okay.
That's true.
So when they built the lunchroom, did they hire any cooks then?
Yes, I think we probably had 2 or 3 cooks. I remember Miss Georgia Hutchison and Beatrice Reed, maybe Marie Carrier, I can't remember.
Do you remember how much the lunch cost at the time? Was it a dime
No.
or something like that?
Don't remember.
Yeah, but you had to pay for it though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody didn't get it. It wasn't like today. You had to bring your money for the
You brought
lunch.
your lunch money, and that took up a lot of the day too. When you started your day, the teachers had to take up all the lunch money, count it, and send it somewhere, principal somewhere, or to the lunchroom. I don't.
Right. Yeah.
Of course,
Well, I guess that's the way they figured out how much they were going to cook that day.
right. They'd have to know the number, and you had a certain amount of time to get that number in so they could start the dinner. No breakfast, it's just dinner. But
Yeah.
I mean, that was exciting to us. We hadn't had a hot meal all those years.
Yeah. Now I had read somewhere about one of before they had buses, they had like a wagon they took around. Have you heard this story?
No, that was before my time.
Yeah. Okay. So do you remember? So do you remember when buses started coming around and getting the kids? Was that when you were already up in high school? Or when was that?
My daddy bought his second farm when Mr. Jim Dye passed away, and it went up for sale. And I was a freshman in high school. I got to ride the bus to school, and I was living on a main highway. We had Greyhound buses and everything going. That was
so. You all had
exciting.
moved by that time. You'd moved off of
Dog Trot. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember how many years. I think it was maybe 5 or 6, 8 or 9 years. Well, how long it would take me to become a freshman. So that would be
Right.
9 years
And
probably.
so where were you living then? Where the old gas station, that building?
No,
or
that
was later.
later, yeah.
Okay.
And Mr. Jim died. His wife had died, and his daughter was living with him. And I never did get to tell you this. Below the Jim Dye place, Miss Fanny Ball, she lived there by where they built the new church, and Mr. Arthur Ball. And then Uncle Chet Reed and Aunt Beatrice, which later became family, and they had one son. And so we all played together. Kenneth Francis and Junior Reed and Jimmy Dye. Mr. Willie had bought the Young place. Mr. Walter Young had died, and I think his son lived there a while, Mr. Willie Young. But I don't know if he was kin to Uncle Cyrus Young, as we all called him Uncle, because he was old. And I rode the school bus for 4 years, and then I graduated in May of 1951. There were 8 of us.
Okay, well, let's finish up your elementary school years.
Okay.
First, I want to talk a little bit about recess. We're going to talk about high school.
Okay.
Okay, so just a little bit more about your elementary school years when you went there. So the playground. So you had mentioned about the kids playing out on the softball field. So I guess, was marbles a big thing for the kids to play at the time?
I think the boys played marbles, and then they had their all of them, every grade, if I'm not mistaken, had a assigned playground area. There was one by the edge of the highway. You played softball and you batted down the hill. And then there was one in the back behind the coal shed. And then we girls, made us a rock playground, like I said once before. And when you get angry or you fall out with your friends and you tear up their playhouse. And then later, before I left grade school, I think we did get a set of seesaws. Okay. And, I forgot, we played London Bridge, the song you sing, and Red Rover, we dare so over.
And you probably did hopscotch.
I think we did hopscotch with rocks. Played jacks.
Jacks, not
played jacks.
Right.
We did that in the winter time when we couldn't go outside.
You couldn't go outside. Yeah.
Yes.
I literally hadn't even thought about jacks for many years, but I've heard my mom talk about that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned volleyball and softball. Did many girls bring dolls to school? Because that was the dolls were pretty nice. I mean, people got them only at Christmas time and probably didn't own too many of them.
No, when I was young, Daddy had a sister that lived in Michigan. She made a nurse, and she would bring me Shirley Temple dolls, and my nice store-bought clothes were always brought by her. My mother made all of my clothes.
Right, yeah.
And
did you ever cut out magazines and cut dresses out of the magazines
paper dolls?
And make paper dolls? Yeah.
I did have paper dolls. I remember paper dolls. Somebody got me a paper doll book.
Yeah.
We did play paper dolls in the wintertime at school, and jacks. Yeah. Because we couldn't go outside.
Now there was no gym up there. There was no in Highland actually has always had a really good basketball team, but for many years they practiced outside, and if they played a game, they played
On dirt.
Yeah, and they played.
I mean, they go to other schools.
Right, they practiced on dirt, but they would go to Kings Mountain, which had a gym, I think, in the 20s, Kings Mountain Elementary. And this is the one over by the railroad tracks, not the what wound up being Memorial School. I think in the 20s they built that gym, and I think Highland did a lot of games there, or they played away. And I think it was in 38. They were called the Gymless Wonders because they went to one of the state championship games. I don't think they won it, but they went way far in the tournament, and the school didn't even have a gym at the time.
No.
But was there any swing sets on the playground?
I can't remember swings.
Or slides?
I don't remember.
So just
swings
basically a
I
teeter-totter.
I think we had seesaws. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best thing I can remember. That was over to the left of the building because there was a big barbed wire fence run straight down where Mr. Roach family grew tobacco.
Okay. Some events that were at the school. Of course, at Halloween they used to turn the toilets over, right?
Oh yeah.
And what was the story you told about the?
Well, my late husband always said that Halloween the boys got together and turned over the toilets, outhouses, and then when it came after Halloween night, the same ones volunteered to turn them back up, to get out of class.
Right.
And I can see him doing that.
Yeah. So there were actually a lot of special events that went on at the school because.
Well, that's where the fold-out doors were opened up and spread back. We got our school books free. The county furnished our school books. But there were pie suppers and cakewalks and
Fall festival.
Fall festivals.
Yeah, we had those. I guess they still do something like that.
I guess.
Big fall festivals always.
I guess so.
Now, so what's a cakewalk?
Well, cakewalk. Oh, you had to bring a pie to the pie suppers and auction it off. And if you were old enough to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you tried to buy their pie. And then you ate the pie with them. A cakewalk was they had one cake and you walked around in a circle and they played music, I think. Someone might have played the piano because there was a piano in the stage room. And when that stopped, you had to grab a chair and sit down.
Still like musical chairs.
That was musical chairs. Right, I got my two games mixed up. And the cakewalk, I don't remember.
So maybe that's
I
like
might
the
have.
pie supper.
I think I mixed my.
Yeah, that's probably where they did
the music, and they stopped it and auctioned it off the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the musical chairs. Yeah.
Right. Did they have any field trips through the school year?
No. I had field trips when I got to high school, but.
Where did they go? William Whitley House?
Oh, we went to the William Whitley House almost the day before school was out. Every year.
Yeah, we did that too.
Grab on,
at Highland,
got to ride the bus all the way to Crab Orchard.
Yeah. And I think the Whitley House has been a state park since like the 20s or 30s, so for many years. So it's always been a place where the school kids would go.
When I grew up, I played in the William Whitley House because I had an uncle that lived in the house. And we got to play in it before it became a...
Oh, really? Okay. Did you have, was there anything special at Thanksgiving, Christmas?
Well, I can't remember if we had anything special on Thanksgiving because my daddy and my family and I, we were stripping tobacco at that time. So all winter we stripped tobacco. Christmas, of course, you drew names and bought a gift for whoever you drew names for. That was the biggie. And of course, we had a Christmas play, and
Was there any other plays throughout the year?
not till I got to high school.
Okay.
Every high school grade did a play
Right.
and charged, and that helped if you wanted a junior trip or a senior trip. You didn't
Okay.
have trips until you got to high school.
Did you have any special speakers that came and spoke to the school or anything like that?
I can't remember. I really can't. I know we had assemblies. That's when you unfolded the doors and everybody. You had, I think you were required to have a number of assemblies and have a speaker come in.
Right. Okay.
And most of the time a lot of the times it was the Highland ministers, because we had one or two ministers from the Highland Methodist Church that were taught school or were coaches or.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So you've already mentioned about the textbooks. Of course, at the time, basically it was reading and math and science and
Geography.
and not a whole lot of extras.
No, we were just the main courses.
No TVs in any of the classrooms, of course. That was several years
that came
off.
later when I was in this room.
Let's see. And you said your library, did it have any books that were fiction books?
I have no idea.
That, like novels that you could check out?
I wasn't a good reader. I had trouble reading for some reason, so I didn't do much library reading. I just remember it was a skinny little room and lots of shelves and lots of books and very cold because there wasn't a stove in it.
Now, did you check? You could check books out. Is that the way
Right.
it worked? Okay.
You had a library time that you could go to the library. I do remember that.
Okay. So, what about your summer vacation in your earlier years? Did you do anything special?
No, worked on the farm.
Planting tobacco, I guess.
Worked on the farm.
Yeah. Never went to the movie theater in Stanford or drive-in or anything?
No, I think I was in the movie theater once in Stanford.
Yeah.
Daddy didn't spend money on things like that.
Yeah.
We didn't get much extra. He was a farmer from sunrise to sunset.
Okay. Okay, so kind of finishing up your elementary school years, they probably didn't have a graduation at 8th grade, did they?
I can't remember graduating. I might have, but I don't remember.
Because it's not really mentioned in the yearbooks that you've had,
I don't think
they made a big deal of it.
It was, you just moved on.
Right. But something I need to mention, when you got up, even before high school, you lost a lot of your classmates because people just didn't come back, right?
Right.
And I didn't know this until recently, that Kings Mountain High School had actually closed in 42. So all those students had went to Waynesburg and Highland until Memorial opened in 52.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so there were more students than normally would have been, but still the freshman classes were large, but they just got smaller and smaller and smaller. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
But so even though it was a high school, most people didn't think it was required at all because it wasn't required. And honestly, most of the boys were going to be farmers or truck drivers, or they were going to go to a factory in the big city, Cincinnati or Detroit.
Or they joined service.
Or they were drafted, yeah.
Right.
And so they really didn't need high school education. I mean, and looking back now, you think, well, why in the world didn't they?
Yeah.
But they really didn't need it. And you had mentioned too that a lot of the ladies just wanted to start a family before.
Right.
And, it was really common to have children at 15, 16, and you didn't go to school when you had a child.
Yeah,
quit
you had to
school.
drop out of
Right.
school.
Yeah. So the class size of Highland, um, your graduating class had how many? Was it eight?
8.
8 students. So
But it started out, if you look in the annuals, as we call them,
yeah, the yearbooks.
then the yearbooks, the freshman class was very large. We got all of these students from Ottenheim and all the little small schools. We had a big freshman class, but like you said, I mean, you didn't have to have 8th grade. You could quit school. Most of our parents quit school when they were in the 8th grade. They didn't go to high school.
Well, really, the only reason you would have needed a high school diploma was if you were going to be maybe if you were going to be a teacher,
Right,
or if you were, say, a man was going to be like an executive in a bank, or he
right,
wanted to have a business career,
right.
or become a doctor or lawyer, But
Or if you went to college,
right, yeah, if you had any plans to go to college,
you had
you
to
had to
go
finish.
through all 8th grade and high school.
So you were the only one out of those 8 that went to college, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was because of my minister.
Yeah.
And my daddy having money to send me there because he had worked hard to educate me.
So now, at the time, they didn't really look down on students smoking at school, right? I guess if they thought you were old enough, you could just
Yeah.
at recess just smoke, and probably a lot of the teachers smoked. And
I can't remember any of the ladies smoking, but I would assume some of the men probably
right,
did. I never saw anybody smoking.
yeah,
Let's say it like that.
yeah. But the boys could drive to school and smoke. I've heard some of them talk about they could actually leave school at lunchtime. They could
Right.
drive to school, or they could walk across the road to
There's
the
I
general store.
I think we forgot to mention, you mentioned to me that there was a little store, and I kept chewing on this, as I say, and there was a little store that was straight across from the school. It never was painted. It was just a little bitty old store, and he sold little snacks, and we could walk across the road and get a snack, or you to walk to the Highland store on the corner of Greasy Ridge.
So at recess, you could do that?
No, only lunchtime.
Okay. Yeah. And was that just the high school
I
kids?
think that was the high school. We were supposed to be old enough to be responsible
Yeah.
to do that.
But still, to think of today of just allowing the kids just to not even really ask permission, just at lunchtime, just go across the road,
Right.
and buy something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you had your high school classes, and when kids think of high school classes now, they think of maybe typing or a foreign language or classes like that, home economics maybe, FFA. None of that was available at
No.
Highland.
In grade school, I had 4-H club. We had a 4-H club. We did have that in the grade school. And then I had Mr. Roy Willoughby for biology. I had Mr. Jody Smallwood for all the math, algebra and such. And Miss Margaret Clausen from Ottenheim was, I think, the English teacher, if I'm not mistaken. And we still had the potbelly stoves in the back and the front of the room, and the 2 big chalkboards.
Yeah.
And at recess, the morning recess, I don't think we had a recess till lunchtime. And then you were allowed to. And the best of my memory, at the lunch recess, if a girl or boy had a girl or boyfriend, they got to come in the hall and stand in the frozen cold hall and visit with them.
Oh, yeah.
I remember seeing 1 or 2 people that I knew later on come to visit their girlfriend. the boys were the one that came to see the girlfriends.
Wow.
And I couldn't believe that. But anyway, I think that was true. Not real sure, but I think so.
All right. So, and just a few years later, when Memorial High School started, I've heard my mom say they did have typing and FFA and foreign language. So just a few years later, some of that had already
Right.
started when they got the bigger buildings and they were able to hire more teachers.
Well, I had heard a person from this Highland community point out that he was not properly trained in high school to be hot college material. And I disagreed with him about it, but later on when I went to college, I was not properly trained to be a college student. I didn't have study skills. We had the 4 subjects, math, English, biology, math. That's all we had. There were no extras. And I did not know how to study for a test. I could sit up to 12 o'clock, fail the test, which I did several times.
Okay, so you're nearing graduation from Highland. Did you know you wanted to be a teacher while you were still in high school?
No.
So how did that come about?
That came about in my junior year when, I never learned to drive until I was married. When I was taken to the Lincoln County Board of Education and I met with Jody Milburn. And I went there to apply for the next year when I would, school term, when I would graduate from Asbury.
So at this time you already graduated Highland.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you graduated Highland, let's finish up graduating Highland.
Okay.
First. So out of the 8 people that you graduated with, what did they go off and do?
They just stayed in the neighborhood.
So we said none of them went on to college.
No.
Did you keep in touch with many of them?
One that lived out on Greasy Ridge, I kept in contact with him.
Okay. So what was the story with, go back to how you wanted to go to Asbury and why did you want to go to Asbury?
Well, I've already told you that I joined and was a strong Christian when I was 16.
The Methodist Church, yeah.
In the Methodist Church. And then we had a minister named, that I think I was saved under him, Jimmy Florence. He had graduated from Asbury College. His family was from Wilmore, and he graduated from seminary. And when I graduated from high school, he came to my daddy and persuaded my daddy to let him get me in Asbury College. And at that time, I lived on the main highway 27. We had bought the Jim Dye place. He had passed away. And Daddy took me to Wilmore, and I did 3 years of college in Asbury College. I didn't do well because I didn't know how to study, use my study skills. Hadn't been taught study skills, how to study for a test.
So you, when you went to and from on the weekends, you said back home and to Asbury, did you rode the bus, I guess?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the first time I had ridden in a Greyhound bus.
And did you lived on the campus in the dormitories?
Dormitories, uh-huh.
So it's culture shock for you, right? Because you come from a little bitty school where you knew most of the people.
A country girl that was not cityfied in any aspect of life. I was born a country girl. I stayed a country girl.
Oh, before I forget, let's touch on your graduation one more time. Yeah. Now you were something in your graduating class.
Yeah, I was voted the valedictorian of my
Were you?
class.
Okay. So, and so what did the graduation ceremony, what did that entail? Did
I
you have
was
to
so
get up and
nervous
speak?
about it, I don't recall. But I made my speech. And I was always in the class play because I had a good sense of humor, even in high school. So I was always the funny, silly person. And I got to be that silly person.
Well, I'll read what you wrote in 1951 because in the yearbook, people would will things to other people.
Oh,
And it says, Heloise Duncan wills to Claudia Claiborne her ability to make D's and F's and a mighty few C's. That's what you'd written
well,
in the yearbook.
I made a lot of A's, much to my ability.
Yeah. So, um, did they have cap and gowns and everything then, or how did that work?
Oh, yeah, yeah. We had, I think, maroon caps and gowns, and you moved your tassel over, and
Principal, I guess, spoke, and then if you
yeah,
were valedictorian, I guess you had to speak a little
I
bit.
had to give my little speech. And usually the Highland Methodist Church minister brought we had was there three activities? Seems like we did something before we graduated, and that word leaves me right now. But now it's just graduation.
Right, yeah.
I think there was another night we did something. Maybe that was the night we did the valedictorian speech or something, and then the cap and the gown and toss
Yeah, okay.
I think that just came to me out of the blue.
Okay, so you're going to college at Asbury. So you're struggling a little bit,
Oh, I'm
but
struggling
you're
a lot.
studying and you're making it.
I have to go back every summer because I don't make proper grades. So I go to summer school. I climb on the Greyhound bus and go to Wilmore, then get a smaller bus to the Asbury College,
Okay.
and go back to the dorm
Okay.
and go through summer school.
Yeah.
And so this time, I have one more year left at Asbury, and I get my daddy to take me to the County Board of Education because I want to apply for next year, a job.
Okay, so now this would be, our years might be a year or two off, but you graduated in 51.
53 and 54.
Okay, so 53, 54. You've got enough college education now that you can do student teaching basically.
Right.
And
the next year I would probably do student teaching, my senior year.
So you went to the Lincoln County Board of Education to
apply
actually probably to help a teacher, right?
Or,
not really teach, just
but be an aide or something.
Right, yeah.
Right. Because see, I've gotten my calling to be a teacher. Your green light. There he is. I've been called to be a teacher by this time.
Okay.
So I want to apply for the next year because I will have my college degree.
And you knew you wanted to come back and teach in Lincoln County at least, but you wanted to come back to Highland.
Right. I did not. I was a plain old country girl. I didn't want to leave my community.
So what did your dad think about you wanting to become a teacher instead of a farmer?
I think Brother Florence had a lot to do with that, persuading him to let me go to college.
So who paid for your college?
My father did.
So all those years he'd been working on the farm, that's basically what he invested back in.
With his unexpected death, I had not thanked him for what he had done.
So what year did he die?
1960.
Okay.
And I just thought I would have him the rest of my life, and I didn't think that I'd lose him with a massive heart attack. I had plenty of time to thank him and tell him how I appreciated him educating me.
Yeah, because you at that time you had been teaching a couple of years. In fact, you'd been teaching in this building for a couple of
Right.
years. Okay, so you're talking to the superintendent about getting maybe a
I would
teaching
talk to
job.
Mr. Jody Milren. Told him that I would graduate at the end of the summer, and I would like to apply for next year to keep me in mind. And my father had already talked to Lloyd McGuffey and told him that I had one more year left to teach. What he think about putting me back at my old high school, which was now a grade school.
And what were you majoring in? And
Then I was majoring in English because I was an only child and I felt I did not probably know how to deal with young children because I was brought up alone by myself. And I would probably be better off with older children. But that soon changed.
Okay, so you find out what your teaching job is going to be.
Well, Mr. Melbourne, I tell him I'm graduating in another year, and he tells me that school is going to open in Lincoln County in 2 days. And he still has one school out in the county that doesn't have a teacher. Would I consider not going back to college for a year and taking Pond Ridge School?
So Ponds, that school is kind of toward the west of Waynesburg, Kings Mountain area.
Right.
Very country.
Very,
If Highland's country, it's the Pond School is very
Pond
country.
was very much country, yes.
And so, and we're talking about amenities that the old Highland School didn't have. Well, this is a one-room school.
Well, it was called a one-room school, but it had an extra room. It was a two-room school, the best of my memory. And I would have from, well, I didn't know then who my students would be, you know.
But this was, so probably at times if they've had a large class, they probably
They
split
probably,
it and had two teachers. But
probably
at this
did.
time, the school, this was first through sixth, you said?
First through sixth.
Okay. And did you even know where Pond School was at?
I didn't even know about anything about the community of Pond.
So, of course, it's not really that far, but when you don't drive and,
Right.
and you haven't been out and
And
about
I
a whole
had to
lot.
be taken. I had not learned to drive yet because we just didn't have time to train me. No one would train me.
So so your first day of school, did they take you and show you the school before school started, or how that? Because you actually wound up living in the community there.
Right. Mr. Jason Roberts, I think, came a few times and helped start me, you know. And I discovered that when I got there, I wrote this down years ago, I had 2 first graders, I had 2 second graders, I had 3 third graders, I had 6 fourth graders, I had 2 fifth graders, and I had 11 sixth graders.
Yeah, that's strange that it went. You would think it would be the opposite, but I guess people didn't. You didn't have to send your kids to school until later, did you? I don't think that they really.
I mean, you know,
And
they were all from that little community,
right.
and I would judge that they wanted to keep their school there. They really did, you know.
But it didn't last very long.
It didn't. I don't remember.
We think probably closed
It probably
58,
closed
59
maybe
somewhere
a year or
along.
so, or maybe that year.
Could have
School
been
term.
Yeah.
It could have closed that school term.
Could have been why the teacher had left too, because they
Right.
might have got rumor that they were closing.
It could have been
Yeah.
if there was another teacher there. I don't remember because I went back and finished my last year of college.
So you were at Pond School 1 year.
1 year.
So tell me about your experience there. So you go to the community and you live with a family, right?
Well, my daddy took me every day in the pickup truck because I had to go early, build my fires. I was given a bucket and a dipper, a coal bucket, and I had to build my own fires. I was given, I guess, a broom and oil to oil the floors, and I had to be there early. So my daddy, for a while, took me, and came and got me every day. And or he hired somebody to take me and bring me home. And then as I was there more, I got to know the family. And Fama and Peanut Patterson, I roomed with them. They were newly married. They had a daughter then. She was one of the first graders.
And they lived right there in the community, I guess.
And they lived there in the community in walking distance of the school. So I boarded with them. And one of their daughter, I'm going to use the name, Linda, was one of the first graders. And one of the second graders was Chester Cornett, who made a minister that lives in Halls Gap State now. And I had the Noel and Adams family, them, in the 6th grade, I think so. And living with this family, and the love they had for each other and the commitment and the farm work, they worked together like my mother and father did. So I really got to know them very well. Mm-hmm.
So there was a little store building there.
There was a little store building. I can't right now recall the couple that run it, but I think I knew the lady. I think she was a Morgan, but I can't remember who she married.
Did you lived with this family? Did they have you helping out with the cooking, or how did that work?
I can't even remember if I paid rent, or I don't remember unless my daddy paid them. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I just knew.
But they kind of took you in as this.
They took me in member. As a family, and I met the Noel and his family, which they're about all of them are gone now. A loving farmer.
So when you started at Pond School, did you have an idea of the way that you were going to organize? Had you been taught anything at Asbury?
No, I had not started I hadn't even planned to be a teacher. I had not started any of my education.
Because you didn't have a teacher's certificate or anything.
I didn't have a certificate. I had Mr. Hanson Roberts. No, Jason. Hanson. No, Jason. Wasn't it his father? He brought me the bird book and showed me the bird book.
Now, he was a teacher?
He was one of the upper people in ed.
Okay. Like under the superintendent?
Yeah, he was one step down from the superintendent.
Okay.
I can't remember.
So he probably traveled around to the one-room schools, right. Made sure everything was being done okay.
And brought me my books. And then I didn't have the foggiest idea where to start. I had to learn from doing. Seems like that was one of my themes one time.
Did you have textbooks like you did at Highland?
He brought me, excuse me, a load of textbooks because he had to know which level to bring me.
Right.
And to some I could put together and teach like first and second. And then when it got up to higher math or geography, 5th and 6th and 4th, you didn't start geography and those things until mainly it was reading and writing, math.
So the question that probably most people has about a first through sixth grade. How do you teach? How do you teach the sixth graders and keep their attention while the
I
first
know.
graders are over here? Did you give the first graders?
I was so excited and overwhelmed. I don't remember much from
Yeah.
that year, to be perfectly honest. I was overwhelmed with what I had chosen to do.
So, do you think that so what was your experience with the? Because you didn't come from a like a what I would call a one room classroom at Highland, but then teaching in it. Um, what do you think was good about a one room classroom? All the kids being in the same room right
Well,
there.
I mean, the older ones kind of looked after the younger ones,
They
you
helped
know.
the sixth graders
They
helped
they
out
they
with the
helped
first graders.
out with, taking them, the younger ones, to the bathroom. You had an outhouse, and you couldn't leave the classroom and take some to the bathroom and leave them other older ones to themselves, because they might, who knows what they would do while you were gone. But they were well behaved kids. I don't think I even had a paddle. I really
Well,
don't.
that was good because that could have went really that could have actually soured your teaching career if
Right,
it did.
right there.
Yeah.
I thought, well,
So tell me what you're thinking your first day of school and you're a college kid with no experience and you're looking out at this room full of kids staring at you.
I was overwhelmed. I really learned with the kids how to discipline, how much to do this, and I had my books to depend on. I taught straight from the book, you know, and it was a miracle that I got through that year, because I was sort of dumped.
Were they smart for what they had?
Well, they appreciated what they had more.
Yeah.
I had to figure out who I could trust and who I couldn't, because I had to send the older ones. The sixth graders were my helpers. I had to send, I had to find a trustworthy boy or girl there to go to the next door neighbor to get a bucket of water so we could have water to drink. And if I had to send somebody out to get a bucket of coal, I had to figure out who I could trust to do that, and it was as much of a learning experience for me.
So all these kids, I guess, walked
They
there,
walked to school.
and um, so how did recess go?
Oh, we played, and I think, I don't know if we had anything to play with. I don't remember. The only thing I remember, we had an Easter egg hunt the last time when I was there, and it rained cats and dogs, and we all were dripping wet, and we played a game of softball, and we were all just dripping wet, And I wrote in my writing, I wrote about them. This was the most important day of my life, a year of my life, that I was shown that this was my calling, was to be a teacher.
So you knew even after as rough as that first year was, you knew that's what you wanted. Did you know that at the time? Did you know that one-room schools like that would be a thing of the past? Did you know that
I didn't even know there were one-room schools, Joe. I graduated from a high school, honey.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know there were one-room schools. I barely got out of the Highland.
Right.
My life was my home, my school, my church.
So you any certain age group that you wanted to teach at that time? Because you said you wanted to teach older kids, but when you
that year taught me that I could manage. I wanted to be with the younger ones.
Yeah.
And that's when I changed my major. That year I went back to Asbury. I graduated with an English grammar degree. and I hadn't had no educational taught yet, because I really didn't know I wanted to be a teacher. I was just called my junior year to be a teacher.
Yeah. Now, these kids at Pond School, would you consider them to be poorer than the kids at Highland? Because the kids at Highland were pretty poor.
Yeah.
But would you consider it to be more in poverty?
It was just a normal country
Yeah.
families. The families were close. They all knew each other. They were probably married, maybe, close.
Yeah.
And it was just a mind-blowing experience. I had accepted.
So, do you remember? Did you have any special events throughout the year that you set up for them, or?
Well, I mean, the biggies: Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter egg hunts, and we were just like a family. We brought our lunch and sat around the stove in the winter and ate our lunch.
Do you remember any bad storms, any snowstorms or
No,
thunderstorms or
I was
anything?
so overwhelmed by the choice I'd made.
So how often, I'm assuming that that somebody, the superintendent or somebody, would come by and make sure you were teaching them, doing what you did. They come by and check on you every now and again, or how'd that work? So you were student teaching, but you were just doing basically all of it yourself.
I was doing it all and figuring out it all my own, because I had never taught before.
Right.
And I learned, like I said, by doing. I mean, I didn't know how to teach a child to read.
How many of the kids there could read? I'm assuming that the sixth graders could probably read okay, right?
But they were better readers, but I just did not have the foggiest idea how to teach a child to read. I didn't know if I had them to memorize a word list. I didn't know if I had them read it over and over till they memorized it. I didn't know.
Well, I've read before that Abraham Lincoln went to a blab school. And they call it that because the way they learned, that this was the modern thing at the time, the teacher would read a sentence and then all the kids would repeat it. And that's the way they learned it. And everything that the teacher would say, the kids would repeat it. And that was just the modern thing at the time. That's the way they thought that they learned.
There wasn't phonics in that day. You learned by repeat, memorizing it. You read it till you memorized all the words in the sentence. And then the older ones helped out, and I can't remember how I taught the one, if they were one or two in a class. Did I combine them? I was so overwhelmed that I thanked God that I didn't harm any child that I taught.
Yeah.
But it was a learning experience for me. It was a change of life. I changed my whole major.
So when you ended that school year, did you know you wasn't going to be coming back to Pond School?
I had to graduate. Yeah. So I had one more year to graduate. So this was a one year deal.
So you had in your mind you were going to come back to Highland. That was the plan.
Yes.
Okay.
But I mean, I hadn't such an overwhelming year. I mean, it just took a while to get it gathered back together.
So you went back to Asbury. Did you want to say anything more about Pond School, about anything?
No, I read my list.
Of the community. No. I really wish I could come up with a picture of that school, and we think that it is where the parsonage is now, where Pond Baptist Church is.
I mean,
possibly the same building that's been totally remodeled.
I really think the parsonage, depending on which way you came, Pond Ridge, from Duncan that way, or Fishing Creek Hill, and the church is across from it almost
Right, yeah. And the store was right next to the
and
church.
the store was
Yeah.
kind of on the main road. But it was a learning experience. I made family ties that lasted, I think most of them are not living anymore. Some of the families, their mother and father at least.
Yeah. So you had one more year at Asbury. So when you went back to Asbury, do you think that year of teaching, did that change you?
That changed my whole outlook on life.
You had a lot more confidence in school then?
Well, I now realized what path I was going to be on. I would graduate by having an English major, and that I would try to get a school that year. And my last year, I changed my major. No, I didn't change my major. I stayed with an English literature, I think, major.
But you changed when you went to Eastern, you did another degree.
When
right?
I graduated from Asbury, I took all of my credits and changed them over.
But first you came to Highland, you came back to Highland, right?
Right.
Okay.
And I changed all my credits, and I think I graduated in 1960 with a teaching degree, and because I had taught 5 years, I did not have to do student teaching, and that was my fear right there, that an old country girl and you stick her in a modern school, I was scared to death. But I had taught 5 years. I got my certificate without doing any student teaching. And in the school term of 1955 and 56, I guess, I walked into this building.
Well, the old school.
The old school.
Yeah. Highland School, yeah.
Highland.
And
supposedly, I think I had the 3rd grade for all those years, except when a principal came and we started grouping children according to their IQ. And he started putting high 3rd graders with high 4th graders, and that advanced.
So, let's finish up. So you went back to Asbury for a year, and then you get a teaching job. Who got you the teaching job back here at
My father, when I graduated, went to talk to Lloyd McGuffey.
The superintendent?
No, board member.
Okay.
He's a board member.
Okay.
And he got me a job at Highland.
Okay. And so you lived at the dorms the last year at Asbury.
Mm-hmm.
Did you move back to your parents' house?
Mm-hmm. And along that way, somewhere in between there, a young man that I had graduated from Highland School, high school, bet this person named Pete Reed that my father would not let me date him because he had some habits that my family didn't agree with.
Now, he had been in the war, right?
He'd been in the war, and he was in a very dangerous part. He was on a USS USS Texas. And he had some bad episodes and did not get any help. And we started dating the last year at Asbury.
Now, what was his occupation when he came back? Farming?
He was in service twice. He was in the Navy during the war, and then he was married, divorced, and went back to the Air Force, and his father got ill with cancer, and he came back to take care of his parents.
And where were they from?
Uncle John was from Highland because he had a brother here named Shell Reed, and he had a brother named Jim. So this was his community.
Do you start dating? This is right before you start teaching here at Highland?
Right.
Okay. But you're living it back with your parents again.
And then when I graduated from Asbury, this may sound bad on my father, but my father was a farmer first. And he had hay cut down. And when Pete's father had died during the 1st of June, and I was supposed to be back at college. So Daddy had hay down, and he had to get the hay put up. So I climbed on a Greyhound bus, went back to Asbury, and graduated with no one there for me. That hurt. Yeah. But I was mature enough to know that that's how it had to be.
That hay put you through college.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was the time, and you had to put it up at a certain time,
Yeah.
So I climbed on a Greyhound and went back to Asbury and climbed back on a Greyhound, came home. And then at the end of August, are we ready for this? At the end of August, Pete and I are getting serious, and he and we elope and go to Monticello, I think.
Or have you told me Jamestown before?
We honeymooned in Jamestown, but we were married at the courthouse.
Okay, yeah.
He was a divorcee, and you weren't allowed to have a minister marry you. So we eloped, and I wrote my mother a note and left it in my room.
So I guess he had a car, right?
Right.
What kind of car was it?
He had a big, long Buick.
This is like a 50-something Buick?
Yeah, in the 50s, one of the big, long Buicks. Yeah. And then he had a gray Ford. He had different cars.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that kind of ends your schooling days, and we're gonna go on and in another video, and we'll talk about
going into
when you start teaching at the old school up there for a couple of years.
That'd be a good place to pick up.